Have you felt the person you love slowly stop seeing you? Stop appreciating what you do? Stop reaching for you, taking your effort for granted, while you keep giving more and more, hoping that if you just love them enough, they'll finally value you again the way they used to? We've all felt misunderstood in a relationship, but there's a specific kind of heartbreak in feeling undervalued by the person you do anything for, because the harder you try to win back their appreciation, the more invisible you somehow seem to become. And no one ever told you why your effort was backfiring. That's why this channel exists. At the Relationship Blueprint, we work from the real psychology underneath these patterns. And here's the truth almost no one tells you. The way most people try to get a partner to value them again is the exact thing that makes it worse. But there's one shift, grounded in how human beings actually assign value, that changes the entire dynamic. We're going to walk through the 5 quiet ways your value drained away without you realizing it. And then the one shift that changes everything. I want to be honest with you up front. It's not a trick to make them value you. It's something deeper, and it works whether they come around or not. I'll show you exactly what it is at minute 9. By the end of this video, you'll understand why this happened, what to stop doing immediately, and the one shift that restores your value, first in your own eyes and then in theirs. Welcome back to The Relationship Blueprint. Subscribe if you're new. New video every week. This one matters, so I'm going to be straight with you the whole way through, including about when the answer isn't to win them back at all. Let's begin. Before the 5 ways your value drained away, one reframe that explains the whole painful pattern and lifts an enormous weight of self-blame off you. When someone we love starts to pull away or take us for granted, almost all of us do the same instinctive thing. We give more, we try harder, we become more available, more accommodating, more eager to please, reasoning that if a little love isn't enough, more love surely will be. It is one of the most human responses there is. And it is almost always the exact thing that makes the devaluing worse. Here's why. Human beings, for better or worse, partly assign value based on what feels scarce, chosen, and self-respecting, and partly take for granted what feels unlimited, automatic, and always available. When you respond to being undervalued by giving even more, you don't signal, "Look how much I love you." You signal, "My time, my effort, and my self-respect are infinitely available regardless of how you treat me." And what is infinitely available, people stop valuing. Not because they're cruel, because that's how human attention works. Important reframe. You did not lose their value because you weren't enough. You lost it, in part, because in trying to be enough, you overgave to the point where your effort stopped registering as a choice and started registering as a given. The painful irony is that the love you poured in to win them back is the very thing that taught them to take you for granted. This is not your fault. It's the most loving instinct there is, misfiring. But it does mean the power to change it is entirely in your hands. And that last part is the good news, hiding inside the hard truth. If the problem was simply, "They don't value me," you'd be powerless. Because you can't force another person to feel anything. But if part of the pattern is in how you've been showing up, then you have real leverage, because that you can change. You teach people over time how to treat you, and what can be taught can be retaught. So we're going to look at the 5 quiet ways your value drained away. Not to blame you, but to show you exactly where your power is. Then the one shift that changes everything. Let's start. Giving more to someone who stopped valuing you usually deepens the problem, because what feels unlimited stops being valued. You didn't fail to love them enough. You overgave past the point where your love registered as a choice, and the way back isn't more giving. It's something else entirely. Stay until minute 9, because all 5 of these come down to one root shift, And it's the opposite of what your instincts are screaming at you to do. It's not a way to manipulate them into valuing you. You can't do that, and I won't pretend you can. It's something that changes everything whether they come around or not. I'll show you what it is at minute 9. Leak 1 of 5. You became infinitely available, the scarcity leak. What you did, you made yourself endlessly available. Instant replies, dropping your plans the moment they wanted something. Always free, always reachable, always ready to rearrange your life around theirs, because you wanted them to know they could count on you. Why it drained your value. When your availability is total and unconditional, it stops being a gift and becomes a fixture, like running water, noticed only when it's gone. Your partner never has to wonder whether they have your time, so your time stops feeling valuable to them. Not because they're ungrateful, but because constant availability quietly trains the mind to take something for granted. The truth, it's not your fault, but it is in your power. Being generous with your time is beautiful, but generosity and self-erasure are different things. You don't have to become less loving. You have to stop being so completely available that your presence loses its meaning. A life that exists independently of them is not a withdrawal of love. It's what makes your love feel like a choice again. The shift. Stop rearranging your entire life on demand. Keep your plans. Have a life that doesn't pause for them, not as a punishment or a tactic, but because a person with their own full life is someone whose time, when given, actually means something. Leak 2 of 5. You overfunctioned for the relationship, the imbalance leak. What you did. You took on more and more of the relationship's weight. You planned everything, fixed everything, anticipated their needs before they spoke them, smoothed every problem. You became the one who carries it, so they never had to. Why it drained your value. When you do all the work, you accidentally teach your partner that the relationship runs perfectly without their effort, so they stop making any. And people rarely value what they don't invest in. The more you overfunction, the less they have to contribute. And the less they contribute, the less invested, and the less appreciative they become. You carried it so well that they forgot it needed carrying. The truth, it's not your fault, but it is in your power. Carrying everything felt like love and like keeping the peace. But a relationship where one person does all the giving isn't a relationship, it's a service, and nobody falls deeper in love with a service. Letting them contribute isn't selfish, it's what lets them reinvest in you. The shift. Stop overfunctioning. Let some things fall to them. Stop anticipating every need and rescuing every problem. When you step back, you create space for them to step up. And the act of investing in the relationship is often what rekindles their valuing of it. Leak 3 of 5. You abandoned your own life, the fullness, leak. What you did. Slowly, you let the rest of your life shrink. The friendships faded. The hobbies stopped. The goals that lit you up went quiet. Bit by bit, your whole world narrowed until it orbited one person. Them. Why it drained your value. When your entire life collapses into your partner, 2 things happen. You lose the very fullness that made you magnetic in the first place. The passions, the independence, the spark of a person with their own world. And you place an impossible weight on them, the job of being your everything. Both of those quietly erode how they see you. You become less of a vibrant equal and more of a dependency. The truth, it's not your fault, but it is in your power. You didn't disappear into them because you're weak. You did it because you loved them. But the version of you they fell for was a whole person with a full life. And rebuilding that life isn't a betrayal of the relationship. It's a return to the person worth valuing in the first place. The shift. Reclaim your life. Call the friends. Restart the hobby. Chase the goal you shelved. Not to make them jealous, but because a full, vibrant life is the foundation of self-worth, and self-worth is the thing that quietly changes how everyone, including your partner, sees you. Quick pause. If you've lost yourself in a relationship to the point where you're not even sure what you'd reclaim, that's exactly the kind of thing a good therapist can help you find your way back from, and rebuilding self-worth is some of the most worthwhile work there is. I'll put some ways to find one, including low-cost options, in the description. Now, the 2 deepest leaks, and then the shift that changes everything. Leak 4 of 5. You started seeking their approval. The power leak. What you did. You started looking to them to tell you were okay. Asking, "Are we good?" Scanning their mood for signs of approval. Needing their validation to feel secure, until your sense of your own worth lived in their hands instead of yours. Why it drained your value. When you hand someone the power to determine your worth, 2 things happen at once. You make their approval the prize, which puts them above you in the dynamic, and you signal that you don't value yourself, which gives them quiet permission to value you less too. People tend to take us, in part, at the price we set on ourselves. Seeking their approval sets that price low. The truth. It's not your fault, but it is in your power. Needing reassurance when you're hurting is human, not shameful. But your worth was never theirs to grant or withdraw. You just handed it to them in a frightened moment. Taking it back isn't arrogance. It's the most fundamental act of self-respect there is, and it changes the entire balance of power between you. The shift. Stop auditioning for their approval. Stop asking, "Are we okay?" to soothe your anxiety. Rebuild your sense of worth from the inside, from your own values, your own standards, your own self-respect, so that their approval becomes welcome, but no longer the thing your stability depends on. Leak 5 of 5. You tolerated what you once wouldn't. The standards leak. What you did. Bit by bit, you let your standards slip. Things you'd never have tolerated at the beginning. The dismissiveness, the broken plans, the coldness. You started letting slide. Telling yourself it wasn't worth the conflict. That keeping the peace mattered more. Why it drained your value. Every time you tolerate treatment that's beneath you, you quietly teach your partner that your boundaries are negotiable, that the line can always be moved a little further. People treat us, over time, roughly at the level we demonstrate we'll accept. Lowering your standards to keep the peace doesn't earn their respect. It slowly tells them respect isn't required. The truth, it's not your fault, but it is in your power. You didn't lower your standards because you're a pushover. You did it because you were afraid that holding them would cost you the relationship. But a relationship that requires you to abandon your standards to keep it was already costing you something far more valuable: your self-respect. Holding your boundaries isn't a threat to love. It's the precondition for the kind worth having. The shift. Quietly raise your standards back to where they belong, not with ultimatums, but with calm, consistent boundaries. Stop accepting what diminishes you. The boundary itself is the message. This is how I'm treated, because this is how I treat myself. Here's the shift I promised, the one underneath all 5 leaks, the one that changes everything, and I'm going to give it to you straight, because it's the opposite of what every instinct is telling you to do. Stop trying to get them to value you, and start valuing yourself. That's it. That's the whole shift. And I know how it sounds. Almost too simple. maybe even like a disappointment after everything we've covered. So let me show you why it's the most powerful move available to you, and why it changes everything when nothing else does. Every single one of the 5 leaks, the over-availability, the over-functioning, the abandoned life, the approval-seeking, the slipping standards, comes from the same root. They all come from looking outward, to your partner, to source your value, from trying to earn, perform, and extract worth from someone else. And here is the iron law underneath all of it. You cannot get someone to value you by chasing their valuation. The chasing itself is what lowers your worth in their eyes, because it signals that you don't hold it yourself. The shift is to turn that whole direction around, to stop asking, how do I make them see my worth, and start asking, how do I treat myself like someone of worth? Because when you genuinely begin valuing yourself, reclaiming your time, your life, your standards, your self-respect, something happens that no amount of giving could ever produce. You stop transmitting the signal that you can be taken for granted, and the entire dynamic recalibrates around the new signal. This is why it changes everything. When you value yourself, you naturally become less available because your life is full. You naturally stop over-functioning because you respect your own energy. You naturally hold your standards because you know what you're worth. You don't have to perform any of it as a tactic. It flows automatically from the inner shift. And a partner who had grown used to taking you for granted is suddenly faced with a person who carries their own value, which is, quite simply, more compelling than a person asking to be valued. But here is the part that matters most, and the reason this works when tricks never could. You have to do it for yourself, not as a strategy to win them back. Because if you reclaim your life as a performance, secretly watching to see if it's making them want you again, it's hollow, and they'll feel it, and nothing will change. The shift only works when it's real. When you actually decide that your worth is no longer up for negotiation, by them or by anyone, including you. An important truth. And this is the truth I promise to tell you straight. Valuing yourself is not a guaranteed trick to make them come around, and it was never supposed to be. Here is what it actually does. It changes everything, regardless of what they do. If your partner responds to the real, grounded, self-respecting version of you by reinvesting and valuing you again, wonderful, you've rebuilt something real. But if you reclaim your full worth and they still devalue you, still dismiss you, still take you for granted, still treat you as less than, then the shift has given you something even more important than their approval. It's given you the self-respect to see clearly that this person cannot meet you, and the strength to stop abandoning yourself for someone who won't. Sometimes the shift saves the relationship. Sometimes it saves you. Both are the shift working. And if a partner treats you with ongoing contempt, control, or disdain, no matter what you do, please hear me. That is not a valuing problem you can fix by being better. That can be a sign of an unhealthy or even abusive dynamic, and you deserve support. There are resources in the description. The shift that changes everything is this. Stop trying to get them to value you and start valuing yourself. For real, for you, not as a tactic. It works not because it guarantees they'll come around, but because it returns you to your own worth either way. Either they rise to meet the self-respecting version of you, or you finally see clearly that they can't. And both outcomes set you free. So how do you actually make this shift? 4 things. And notice that not one of them is about managing your partner. They're all about returning to yourself. 1. Pour back into your own life. Take the energy you've been pouring into winning them back and redirect it into your own life. your friendships, your health, your goals, the things that make you feel like you, not to provoke them, to refill yourself. 2. Hold your standards calmly. Quietly stop tolerating what diminishes you. No ultimatums, no speeches, just calm, consistent boundaries that say, through action, this is how I'm treated. Boundaries spoken through behavior are the ones that land. 3. Stop chasing their approval. Catch yourself when you're auditioning for their validation and gently stop. Source your okayness from inside, from living by your own values, rather than from their reactions. This is the hardest and most important one. 4. Let the relationship show you the truth. Then watch what happens, not anxiously, but honestly. Does your partner rise to meet the grounded, self-respecting version of you? Or do they keep devaluing you even now? Either way, you'll have your answer, and you'll be standing on your own worth when it comes. You restore your value the same way you lost it, gradually, through 1,000 small acts. But this time, the acts are aimed inward, choosing yourself, holding your standards, refilling your life. Do that, and you become someone who is valued, starting with the one person whose valuation you can actually control. You. If you've watched this far, I want to leave you with the thing that matters most of all. You are not someone who needs to be earned back. You are not too much, and you were never not enough. You are someone who loved so generously that you forgot to keep any of that love for yourself. And the entire fix is simply to start giving some of it back to you. That's not selfish. It's the foundation everything else is built on. And here's where this goes next. Reclaiming your value changes how you show up. But for a relationship to truly heal, you and your partner also have to be able to actually feel each other's love again. And most couples, even when they're both trying, give love in a language the other can't fully receive, which is exactly how two people end up feeling unvalued while both are still trying. That's the love languages framework, and it's the next piece of rebuilding what was lost. Watch that video next. Subscribe to the Relationship Blueprint. New video every week. The moment you stop abandoning yourself to be valued by someone else is the moment everything begins to change. For the relationship, maybe, but for you, certainly. And you are the one who matters most in this story. I'll see you in the next one.